So our final and fourth part of our wire mesh in Photoshop, we ran into a little bit of a snag, or at least a misnumbering with our masks. If we take a look at our masks by pushing on the key, the backslash key underneath the delete key, we can see our masks here. But in order for these wires to weave to the left, so they look like they're weaving out to the left, and to have them look like they're weaving out to the right here, I unfortunately put one too many wires in the middle, and this one is going to have to go. But it's an easy fix as far as the vertical wires are concerned. We're just going to overlap. We're going to move all these wires in by one once we have this thing finalized. But for now, we're just going to leave him alone. In order to know what we're going to do with him right now, because we don't need it, we're just going to paint. I created a selection, and we're just going to paint him out because we don't need him right now. So we will fill in that gap by moving all these over one. So, and the way that and just a little tip, the bracket keys actually make your brush size bigger or smaller. So if you push the two keys next to the P key, one of them makes the brush tip bigger and one of them makes the brush tip smaller. So the next thing we want to do is we want to put the shadows in between these things. Now this is probably the biggest pain in the butt with this whole thing, but it has to be done. One of them is easy and one of them is not. The shadows on the horizontal lines, I believe, is pretty easy. The ones on the vertical lines are not. So we're going to select our vertical lines by holding down the command key and clicking on the vertical lines layer, not the mask, but the actual paint on the layer. And that selects all of the vertical lines. We're then going to feather that a little bit by, I think, select, modify, feather by 3 is good. Let's try that. And then we're going to shift that selection over by using our arrow keys. And we're going to burn in some shadows. Now, actually, I think it is the... Yeah, well, actually, no, there is no easy way of doing this, is there? Okay, so let's hide our selection by going to Command H, and we're going to paint in on the horizontal layer with the burn tool, and I'm using the burn tool right here, and we have a wide blurry brush. Let's take a look at the brush that we have chosen. Whoop. We want a sort of a soft brush, and I would say probably this type of brush, soft brush transfer smooth. This is in my company brushes folder. If you go to look at the brushes settings, transfer is on pen pressure if you're using a Wacom tablet, and smoothing is on. So I'm going to put that back. We're going to reduce the size of this brush, and we are going to paint in our shadows. But we need to shift our selection over, let's say 1, 2, yeah, not that much is good. And we're going to say select, modify, feather by 3 is good. Hide our selection. And then we are going to burn in our shadows. And this is going to be very, very laborious. So I'm just going in and I'm painting each shadow under each ring. Now this is going to take some time, so what I would recommend is I'm going to cut out and I'm going to squeeze in one more. I thought this was the last one, but it's not. I am going to paint all these shadows. Then once these shadows are painted in, then we're going to do the last part of the tutorial, which is then to copy and paste these into a large sheet that is just a big sheet of this chain. But before I cut out, I've put the shadows on the horizontal lines, but I also need to do the shadows on the vertical lines. And we're going to use a selection of the horizontal lines to do that. I am command clicking on the horizontal wires, and I'm going to then go to the vertical wires layer. I'm going to go select, modify feather by 3, and then I'm going to shift that selection. I'm going to make sure that I am on the selection tool when I shift it, and I'm going to move this, I think, down by 3. Now on the vertical lines, I'm going to hide my selection. I'm going to burn some shadows into here as well. And this has to be done, whoops, not that one, for all of your rings. Now, yes, this is a pain in the butt, but in the end, it'll look great. It is a little time consuming, but this is the most time consuming part of it. Eventually, like I said, once you've done these like 3 or 4 lines, you don't necessarily have to render it again. You're going to be repeating this over and over again, and it's going to be a hell of a lot easier once you get to that point. So I'm going to let you burnish in these shadows, and then we are going to go to the true and last video for the metal grate tutorial. Okay? See you in a few. Go have fun with your shadowing.